Hi there, everyone. Today we are going to be cutting an image out of a background and changing the background. I've had this question asked to me by a few people over time, and I've finally gotten the time to go ahead and get around to doing it. This is just going to be a simple image. It's not going to be nothing special or fancy or nothing like that. We're just going to take this chair out of this image and we're just going to place it in this image, and it should end up with something like that, or like this. I'm sorry. It's nothing complicated or anything like that. So here in Gimp, there's a few methods that you could do this with. You could do this with the pen tool. You could do this with the free select tool. You could try to do this with the foreground select tool. This is a newer tool inside of Gimp. I'll go ahead and go through and demonstrate this. On this example, it don't work too well. But maybe it's just because I'm not using it properly. I normally use either the free select or the pen tool. That's how I normally extract things. So when you have a image, this is more of a simpler image. I chose a simpler image just for tutorial purposes, to keep the tutorial down low in time. But when you get more complicated images, there's some more plugins and things of that nature that you could use to do this. But for most things and most objects that you want to extract out of an image, this is the best way to go about it. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the the foreground select tool, and I'm going to demonstrate how to use this. It says at the bottom, if you see down here when you hover over the image, at the very bottom, you guys might not be able to see that with my bar, I apologize, but at the bottom there you'll see that it says roughly outline the object to extract. So all you want to do here is we'll just go ahead and we'll roughly go around this balloon here. And there we go. I just roughly went around it. This isn't nothing fancy or anything like that. I have a better image that I'm going to use for this project later on. Or I'm sorry, an image that I've already extracted all this and took the time to do it just for time purposes. But you see here that I have a rough outline of this balloon going on here. And I noticed in Gimp 2.10, now that when you do the free select tool or anything of that nature, now you have to hit enter to get these scrolling ants going around your image, or the selection. A lot of people call them scrolling ants. So I've roughly outlined this, and you'll see up here in the top, you see you got a foreground select. You could just detach dialog from canvas if you'd like, and then the X is to get rid of it, of course. So if you just hit enter on your keyboard, you'll see now that it's roughly outlined here. And on the bottom it says selecting foreground, press enter to preview it. So we could draw on here and select the background here and press enter, and we're previewing. You'll see that it didn't get all the blue off here. So we'll go ahead and we'll run back through here a little bit. Oops, I went a little bit too far. So I'm going to Control Z that. And I'm just going to come through here and just kind of go up top here and just kind of outline this balloon a little bit more to kind of get more colors inside of there. Then let it do its computational thing. This image right here is super large, so that's the reason why it's taken so long. Now, if I just press enter again, it says select foreground, press escape to exit preview, or enter to apply. So I could press enter, and you'll see now that we got these scrolling ants here, rolling ants, scrolling ants, however you want to call it. It done a decent job, but if you take more time, you could go ahead and get a better selection. Me personally, I'm not sure if this tool is there just yet. It will work for more simpler things, but it's not doing very well for this. So I'm going to press Control-Shift-A. Oops. Control-Shift-A to deselect this here, and then me personally, I use the free select tool a lot, or I use the pen tool. For this, I went ahead and just used the pen tool. And all you want to do is you'll just want to scroll in here, and you just want to take your time and just come around your image here and just simply go around the outline of whatever you want to cut out. I'm not going to do the whole image for you guys because, like I said, I already got an image done for this. And then all you'll want to do is you'll just want to, like I said, just go through here and just outline everything that you want, and then just connect your dots when you're done. And then, like I said, it doesn't automatically select anymore. This kind of gives you a free range to come to these points if you'd like, and you can move these points. I'm actually liking this feature that it don't automatically select. That way you can make your selections or more precise. And then all you want to do after that is just hit enter, and you'll see you'll get the scrolling ants on here. You'll want to right click on your image and make sure it has an alpha channel. And then you could hit delete on your keyboard, and bam. And then you'll see that you have that part cut out there. I'm going to Control Z that, and if you press Control I on your keyboard, it will invert that selection. And then you can press delete, and now you'll see all we have is that selection of that balloon, and everything else is gone in that image. I'm going to Control Z that, Control Z again, and then if you want to feather the edges of your selection, if you don't want such a tight selection when you delete your image, so if I delete it here and I press Control Shift A to deselect, you'll see that it's a pretty harsh cut on here. So if I Control Z that and Control Z one more time, and then if I come up here to select, I could select feather. So you can select it here, or you can select it over here in the tool options. So feather edges, and then it's got a radius of 10. We could go ahead and for this, a radius of maybe 2 or so will be fine. And now once I click delete and Control Shift A, and if we look in closer, you'll see that the edges are now feathered. It's kind of like if you take the image, and if we go up here to filters and we go to blur, and we do a Gaussian blur, and we blur this. Okay, there we go. That's high enough. And you see that we're getting a preview, and you see how it's blurred. That's all it's doing, is it's feathering the edges so it's not such a harsh cut. And so the higher you make your, let's go ahead and cancel that. So the higher you make this, so if I go up to, okay, I didn't want to do that, but that's fine. If I go up to, say, 136 or something like that, and we'll just go ahead and cancel that, and we'll come back to our free select tool, and I don't know, we'll just take it up super high, and I make a selection here just like that, and I hit enter, and then I press Control I to invert that selection, and I press delete on my keyboard. You'll see that now the edges are super feathered on this. So sometimes you may want that, and sometimes you may not. The other way that you could do this too is if we just Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and we turn off feather edges here, and we just make a selection here, just like that, and we press enter, and we go up to select feather, and we feather this, let's say by 20 pixels. That should be fine. And then if we hit delete and Control Shift A, to see that the edges are feathered. I never really use the feather edges on the tool options. I always go up to select and do it. So I'm going to press Control Z, and we'll get our image back. Control Shift A to deselect that. Another way that you could get rid of an image is if you come and you select your pen tool, which the icon has changed for that. So give me a second just to find it. There it is. I call it the pen tool. I'm used to it from Photoshop, but it's the paths tool I'm actually speaking of, not to confuse anybody. So the way you use this is you'll just kind of like the free select. You'll select one place here, and then we can come up here, and we can hold down without unselecting, and then we can move these points across just like that, and we can get a pretty good looking circle there. And then we just go ahead and click here and just move those points, and then come down a little bit more and select this area and move these points, and then come down a little bit more. Let's try here. Select these points as good as we can. There we go. And then we can come back over here on this point and click, kind of drag out these handles here. We come and drag this one out a little bit more properly. And then we want to hold down Control when you want to connect these. So I'm going to hold down Control and click and connect those there. And then just kind of move this around a little bit. Hold down Control to kind of get that point to come out. And get this point. That point didn't really need to move. Just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and we are going to, in your tool options, you can do selection from path, or fill path, or stroke path. So we're going to do selection from path. And now you'll see that we have a selection around this path now. And if you go into your path dialog, you'll see that there's a path saved there. And now we could press Control I to invert this selection. And we could go up to select, and we could go to feather. And we'll go ahead and feather this by, let's say 3 pixels. Press OK. And hit delete on our keyboard. And then press Ctrl-Shift-A to deselect. Back to our layer. And we could click on our move tool to get rid of that path. And you'll see here that we made a pretty good selection here. I missed some a little bit, but that's a super easy way to do it, especially if you're doing round objects. And if we press Ctrl-Z, and go back, press Ctrl-Shift-A. And if we come back here, you'll see that we still have our selection. So you could right click and you could go path to selection, and you'll get another selection here. Ctrl-Z that. We could go ahead, you could save that path if you'd like, and just click on a new path. And that's fine. Name it new path, and we could just call this balloon. Like that. And then make sure you're clicked on this path. And so you could come back through here and move this around and make sure that we're back on our paths tool. And we could just come through here and just kind of make our selections around here. Now, for some people, this may take longer to do, especially if you're not used to working with paths. Just a little bit of practice makes perfect. But like I said, this way, you could always have your path here to go back and work with and make selections. This is just going to be a rough selection of the path. And we'll just come through here. And I'm just going to come back all the way up through here, and just so we can connect this path again real quick, and then hold down Control to connect it. And there we go. And you'll see when we come back over here to paths, it created its own new path again. I don't remember if it used to do that or not, but we can click right here back on it, and we can right click here and go path to selection, and you'll see that this is selected for us now. So if we press Control-I, and then invert the selection, and then press delete on our keyboard, you'll see that it deletes that. We could press Ctrl-Z, and we could come back over here to our layer, and we could right click, and we could go over to add layer mask and do white full opacity and click add. And now you see we have a selection here, and now all we want to do is white. You can see it. If it's black, it's invisible, so we're going to use the black color and drag and drop it on there. And you'll see now that we have a layer mask here. So if I press Ctrl-Shift-A to deselect here, and then I come over here to my layer mask and I click on Alt, we could preview our layer mask, and we can come in here and do things to our layer mask if we'd like. And we come back over here, click Alt again, and it goes back to the regular image. And now if you ever want to bring that back, we just press X on your keyboard to switch to white, and then press P on your keyboard to bring up the brush. Control-Z that. Let's go ahead and raise up the brush size here a little bit. And then you can come back through here with white, and you can draw back anything that you'd like, and then switch it back over to black, and you can erase it again. So this is a good non-destructive way to do this. If you don't care about the image at all, then you could just go ahead and press delete. So, and if you want to get rid of the layer mask, you just right click here and then click delete layer mask and it will be gone. And so paths are a lot better for non-destructive work. But if you don't have nothing else you want to use this for, the free select tool works just fine. You just zoom way in here and you just come around here and select whatever it is you want to select. Press enter to bring up the scrolling ants. Press delete, Control Shift A, scroll back out, and that part is deleted. The way that I personally would work is I'd use a layer mask. It just makes everything easier. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and switch back over here to the one that I already have cut out. So that was it for the tutorial on how to extract an object from a background. So if you guys, the tutorial is done now. If you guys don't want to watch the rest of the tutorial, you can go ahead and click off now. But I'm just going to come through here and show you guys what I did when I put this chair into an image. So I got the cutout image here. All I did was I pressed Control A to select everything and then Control C to copy it. And I came over here to this image over here. I'm going to grab my move tool, make sure this layer is selected, and then I'm going to just press Control V. And you'll see that this image that I pasted in here is super large. I'm going to go ahead and click on this create new layer button. I'm going to create a new layer with this. And then I'm going to press Shift T to bring up my free select tool. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom out here. And the free select tool has a lot more options on it now. You'll just want to make sure to click on this outside square and drag in, holding down Shift, keep it square. And then we'll just go ahead and click inside this box here to drag this chair up. And we'll go ahead and holding down Shift, make that a little bit smaller here. And we'll just place the chair somewhere around here. And I'm going to press enter. And it's going to go ahead and scale that down. I'm going to go ahead and right click and I'm going to add a layer mask, white full opacity. And then I'm going to press P on my keyboard to bring up my brush tool. And then I'm going to select a different brush. Well, actually, no, this brush should work fine. We'll just scroll in here and we'll make this brush a little bit smaller. And then we'll come down here on the legs. And with black, we're just going to kind of color in the legs here to bring in some of that grass to make it look like that chair is sitting in the grass there. And we'll just go ahead and do that to all four of these here real quick. Let's zoom out and see if that looks like enough. Now that chair looks like it is sitting in that grass. Maybe we could come up a little bit more with it. There we go. It looks like it's sitting in the grass there. The next thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and drag this down to the create duplicate and create a duplicate of this. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to delete the layer mask. And then I'm going to press this cage perspective tool right here. So it's Shift P. And I'm going to click and I'm just going to drag this down some, drag it up and then down, something like that. I'm going to press enter. And then I'm going to press M on my keyboard for the move tool. And I'm going to hold down Alt and I'm going to click on this image to select around the image. And then I'm just going to drag and drop black on there. I'm going to fill this with black, Control Shift A to deselect. And then I'm going to go to filters, blur, Gaussian blur, and we'll blur this. We'll do about 7 on the size for the blur. And then I'm going to go to mode and I'm going to put this on multiply just like that. And then I'm going to lower the opacity of this layer. And I'm also going to come and I'm going to press the eraser tool here and we're going to raise the size and I'm going to change the brush to a soft brush here, raise the size some, and I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that balloon shadow. And we'll come over here to this layer, bring out the opacity a little bit more. So that way you can see a shadow on here. The next thing that I am going to do is I am going to go ahead and grab the background, and I'm going to duplicate the background. I'm going to go ahead and bring this to the front. I'm going to right click. I'm going to add a layer mask to this. So add a layer mask, but this time I'm going to do black full transparency and click on add. And I'm going to come back over here to this image. I'm going to hold down Alt to make sure that I have the free select tool up here, and then selected on the layer mask. I'm going to go ahead and press X on my keyboard to switch it to white, and I'm going to lower this brush size. We're going to use a soft brush for this, maybe a little bit bigger than that. And then we're just going to paint with white and press Control Z a couple times there. Let's go ahead and Alt click, and I'm going to make sure that I press P to be on my paintbrush tool, and we're on white. And then I'm going to just come through here, and I'm going to paint these trees back in on this balloon. Something like that should be fine. I'm going to press Control Shift A to deselect, and then I'm going to come back to this image, and I'm going to set this to soft light, and I'm going to lower the opacity on this just so we get a little bit of that translucency going there on the balloon. That should be good there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click back on this background, and I'm going to come up to colors, and I'm going to go to the hue saturation, and I'm going to saturate this a little bit, and I'm going to change the hue. Something like that. That looks pretty good. I'm going to press OK. Then I'm going to go back up to colors, and I'm going to do the color temperature, and I'm going to make it a little bit cooler of an image, and then I'm going to press OK there. The next thing that we are going to do is we're going to come back to this chair layer, and we're going to do colors, hue saturation, and we're going to bring down the saturation on this just a tiny bit. You can change the hue if you'd like, but I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to press OK. Then I'm going to go back up to colors, and we're going to go to exposure, and I'm going to bring that down just a tad bit to kind of darken the chair a little bit. The chair was a little bit too bright because it was taken inside with studio lights and all that good stuff. So just kind of trying to blend it in with the level, or I'm sorry, with the image a little bit here. Let's see. And then so the next thing I'm going to do is you could go ahead and go up to layer, and new from visible. I have a shortcut for this. It's Control Shift Alt E. And we're going to do Control Shift Alt E, just like that, and that's going to do a new from visible here. And I'm going to come, and I'm going to select my crop tool, and I'm just going to highlight this whole image here, and then I'm going to bring this in some, kind of give it the same width on both sides of the chair. Something like that should be good. I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to crop this image here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my magic wand, and I'm going to click in the sky. It's going to highlight the sky, and I'm going to go up to colors, and we're going to do hue saturation, and let's change the hue of the sky just a little bit. Press OK. Control Shift A to deselect. And then the next thing that we want to do is, this is optional. You could add a new layer. You could come over to your gradient tool, and black and white's fine. Actually, we want to be foreground to transparent, and we'll want to use black. The shape, we want it to be radial, just like that. And we'll come in about the middle of this image, and we'll just drag out, and Control Shift Z, and we'll want to go ahead and flip this. and then we'll just drag out from there. And then this is pretty cool. Now we have the option to bring these gradients in some if we'd like, and we can move this down some so we get some dark edges here. Let's go ahead and maybe pull that some, just like that. Press enter to go ahead and finalize that, and we can put this mode on multiply, and we can lower the opacity some. Just kind of focus in a little bit on this chair, and that is pretty much it. That's a pretty simple image, and that is how you remove something from another image and replace it with a different background. The same concept works. You just want to outline the selection, and you could delete this background and add something to this image, or drag and put it over to the other image. But that's all that I wanted to show today. I hope this helped you guys out. Please like and subscribe for tons more tutorials. And before I go, I wanted to talk a little bit more. I have recently started a Patreon. I know a lot of people don't like Patreon and things of that nature, but it sure helps me out, and it would help me to get better equipment and make better tutorials and do more tutorials often. I will leave a link down in the description, and if you want to help the channel and you like what I do and all that good stuff, you can head over there and check it out with some cool perks and all that good stuff. But thank you, and have a great day.